What's up, Bailey? Good morning. Happy Friday to you. Sorry, the tweeting and the pushing of the show to Discord is taking a little bit longer than it normally does. But doing well, doing well. Hello, Tuttle. Hello, Tuttle. While I am getting everything set up and ready to go, would love it if you guys have any topics that you want to preload into the chat for us here on the show today. Anything you want to get my thoughts on. Obviously, things that I'm certainly considering. Taylor B! Welcome, Taylor B. First time I think I've seen you here, at least in a little bit. Welcome, welcome. Happy to have everybody here. Janelle back from the fishing trip. Janelle, how was the fishing trip? Did we catch any... Did we catch any big fish? Or did we catch any fish that we liked? It doesn't have to be a big fish. Did we enjoy the fishing trip? Give me some highlights from the fishing trip. Hello to Jamie. Can everybody do me a favor? Bailey, Tuttle, Taylor B, Janelle, can everybody do me a favor? Can we get some very nice happy birthday messages for our guy, Jamie Eisner, who turns 55 years old today, gets his AARP membership. He's going to get his 50% off breakfast at the IHOP later today. But let's get some very nice, warm, and just happy birthdays to our guy, Jamie Eisner. Taylor has been busy with a new job and haven't been available for recordings. Well, Taylor, we're glad to have you here. Hope the new job is going very well. Like I said, Friday Free For All, the producer's mic gets passed over to you guys. Please do me a favor and get those topics that you want for us to discuss here into the chat. I am sending out the tweet for the show. It is already available in the Discord. But yeah, we can get started. I got to go on mute for just 2 seconds to finish sending out the tweet, and then we will get the show on the road. Okay, we're back. I think Jamie hates the fact that I brought up that it was his birthday today. I mean, Jamie's going to have a great day. He doesn't have to... Prospects and Props was already recorded. It just has to be published a little bit later today. So he doesn't have to, sit and do a show with me. So he's probably living his best life. It's Friday. We don't have a TDN Daily staff meeting on Friday. So he's got free time. How about this for a topic? What are Jamie's birthday wishes for the NFL season? Maybe, you know what? Maybe Jamie will oblige. But okay, we are ready to go. We will transition to this screen. Hello, good morning, everybody. How is everybody doing here? We have a story over on thedraftnetwork.com that is going to be the topic of conversation if we need something. That's why Jalen Hurts is the thumbnail for the video. We'll probably get to it here at some point. Bailey says he is eagerly awaiting prospects and props. It is recorded. It is done. I just need to publish it, which is normally what I do right here in the time after TDN Daily gets finished. Both this show and prospects and props go up pretty close to one another. So that'll go out later today. And Bailey, we do give that'll take some time. Jamie makes a ruling. Does make a ruling on it. I don't want to give too much away. I want to make sure everybody goes over there and checks that out and has a conversation about that. But we've got the Friday free-for-all edition of TDN Daily. And so whatever topics you guys want to discuss, whatever things you guys want me to comment on throughout the course of the recording of the show, go right ahead and get those ready. Janelle says thoughts on the draft happening in Green Bay. I think it's an interesting choice, an interesting place. Obviously, the historical nature of picking Green Bay is great, and there's a lot that they can do with that. I worry a little bit about the infrastructure, right? Green Bay is not a major metropolis. It's not a major town outside of having the Green Bay Packers. So what kind of infrastructure are they going to be able to build in a reasonably short amount of time to be able to get hotels, infrastructure, transportation, all that kind of stuff that makes it so much easier for people to go to when it's in a major city, like a Chicago, like a Dallas, like a Vegas, places like that. So I'm excited about it. I think they'll pull it off no problem because it's the NFL and they definitely do their research into these things. But these are just some of the things that I'm considering. NFL gambling, do you think we'll see other teams hit with suspensions like #OurLions? All right, so you guys are continuing to load some stuff in there. We'll obviously talk about the Patriots stuff because we're learning a little bit more as to what they did that got their practices taken away. And it's our old friend Joe Judge. doing things apparently that got the Patriots into trouble. So we'll press record, continue to throw those topics into the chat, and we'll react to them as the show goes on. But I'll press record and we'll get the show on the road. And welcome in to the Friday edition of the TDN Daily podcast. Chris Schubert back with you here once again on the show. Hope everybody is having a fantastic Friday, closing out the week, the weekend just around the corner. We've got a fun one. You know the drill, the Friday free-for-all. We passed the producer's mic. I'll keep the host mic today. The producer's mic gets passed over to you, the listener of the show, specifically the live YouTube chat. You drive the conversation. You drive where this show is going to go. The topics all come from you. The questions all come from you. The banter all comes from you. You just get my reaction to the stories of the day. So kind of like a news and notes kind of show, but a Friday free-for-all where we completely pass things over to you. I do have some backup stories in case we need some stuff. We got a lot of people in here hanging out on a Friday to close out the week. And one of the popular things that came up in the pre-show that I think we should probably start the show with, and that is that we are learning more as to why the Patriots got a couple practices taken away for violating off-season rules. The NFLPA is alleging that special teams coach Joe Judge directed special teams players to be at the facility longer than the maximum that's allowed, which I think is like 4 hours during phase 2 of the club's program. And so Joe Judge, special teams coordinator for the Patriots, then went on to be the coach for the New York Giants for a couple seasons. That didn't work out very well there in New York, and I think his tenure there with the Giants kind of rubbed people the wrong way. Came back to New England, was part of this offensive mastermind duo of Joe Judge and Matt Patricia, who were running, play calling, putting together, installing the offense for the Patriots last season. And I don't know how many people saw this story when it happened, but there was a story written, I want to say a couple of months ago, right after the season concluded, that discussed the inner workings of the 2022 season, the dysfunction that maybe occurred with Mac Jones, with Bill Belichick, with the offense at large. And if you read through the story, and I wish I could be able to source it and be able to give a link to everybody, but I remember reading the story and it went through kind of what went wrong for the Patriots in 2022. And it kind of talked a little bit about Joe Judge not maybe doing things the way that he needed to do them, kind of undoing some of the things that maybe Patricia was trying to do. And it didn't seem like that duo, Patricia and Judge calling the offense, what was not working out the way maybe Bill Belichick and company thought it was going to when they put this in place. Imagine thinking that two defensive or special teams coaches were going to put their minds together and be able to come up with a coherent offense in 2022 to be able to win the AFC East and be competitive in the AFC. And so Joe Judge kind of overstayed his welcome in New York, maybe rubbed some people the wrong way a year ago during the year in which he was in charge of the offense with Matt Patricia, and now the allegations that that what was maybe supposed to be optional, the NFLPA Observer, and I read this follow-up report, the NFLPA Observer did not feel as if it was optional, felt like it was more than mandatory, which would then violate the rules, and then got the Patriots in trouble. And Taylor B says, this isn't the first time this has happened under Belichick, right? It was my instant reaction when I saw the news, what was it, yesterday, on Thursday, when the story came out, that like I remember something like this happening in the past where they had an issue like that, and they got something taken away when it comes to practices. Something very similar. I don't remember exactly what the infraction was, but yes, something very similar in which they lost a couple days of OTAs. In this case, it was 2 days of OTAs due to a meeting violation. The chat also has brought up, Tuttle says, the NFL gambling, do you think we'll see any other teams hit with suspensions like the hashtag #OurLions? There was that report that floated out, in the middle of the week? Was it Tuesday or Wednesday? In which it said that the league is investigating, they're following up, and there's a second investigation into some violation of the NFL gambling rules. And I think to pair this with something, Jameson Williams met with the media, what was it, yesterday after practice? And I'm reading the tweet here. Yes, it was from 20 hours ago. But he answered these questions, and I'm pretty sure the takeaway that he had, he said that he didn't know the NFL's gambling rules, says that he still doesn't know when he exactly violated it. Somebody, I guess, followed up and asked if that meant he gambles a lot. Williams said no, but would not comment on what he gambles on. And I think this goes back to when we look at the situations that have occurred over the last couple of years, right? With Calvin Ridley and with Jamison Williams. The difference in those suspensions, right? Jamison Williams suspended for the first 6 games of the Lions' schedule. Calvin Ridley suspended for the entire year. Calvin Ridley had bets on NFL games. That's a no-no for a league that is partnered with, that is taking money from these gambling institutions on a regular basis. And with legalized sports gambling all across the country, and with other states very closely keeping an eye on it to see if they're the next, next spot up. The NFL can't afford the bad PR. The NFL can't afford stories in which their own players are betting on their league. And so it's just a no-no. It's an automatic 1-year suspension. For Jamison Williams, it was that he placed a bet, not on an NFL game, because it's only 6 games, but he did so at a team facility, which again is a no-no. So if he bet on, and I'm just making something up, the Mets played the Cubs last night, right? If he was at the team facility and placed a bet on the Mets and the Cubs, that is a no-no under the NFL's gambling rules, and that is a automatic 6-game suspension. Now, we can have a separate conversation of whether or not that's a fair policy to have, or whether or not that's the right way for the NFL to go about it. But those are the rules. But Jamison Williams says he didn't know the rules. And I don't know if that is a lack of accountability from Jamison Williams' perspective and not understanding the rules, or if that is a lack of transparency and over-the-top communication from the NFL perspective, where they are hammering these rules home. These feel like rules that would be pretty important to emphasize with your players. This is what's going to get you an automatic suspension. This is going to get you an automatic 1-year suspension. This is what's going to get you an automatic 6-game suspension. These are the rules. Do not break them. And it probably would be best served for the NFL to go to each of these camps and reinforce these rules, just so there isn't any sort of ambiguity whatsoever about how these players feel about this. And, just kind of clear the air and say, these are the rules. This is what you need to do. Do not bet on anything when you're here at the team facility. Do not bet on the NFL at all. And then, go from there. But again, for a league that's taking, millions of dollars from these gambling institutions, from these betting institutions, they need to be on the up and up. They need to look above board. And so that's why the policy's in place, and that's why the NFL has been so strong with it. But yeah, there is a rumor that there's another member of the 2022 Detroit Lions that's being investigated for a potential violation of the league's gambling policy, which would be the 5th player that has been caught up in this investigation from the NFL. And look, the NFL is going to be on top of this. It's one of the things that they're definitely going to stay on top of with a new TV deal coming up, with them taking this money from these gambling institutions. They are going to really make sure that they are on the up and up, and they have everything sorted out the way that it needs to be. So I have a story ready to go that I wanted to get everybody's thoughts on, and maybe we'll make this the meat of the podcast here. But our guy Dan wrote a story that dropped this morning on thedraftnetwork.com, and the story is titled, "Why Can't the NFC East Produce Repeat Champions?" And it goes into the fact that since 2004, the NFC East has not had a single one of its 4 teams win back-to-back titles. And it talks about the other teams that have won back-to-back titles, and talks about there are only 3 teams that have never won back-to-back division titles, and that being the Atlanta Falcons, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Detroit Lions. And I thought it would be interesting. I thought it would be a fun conversation here on the show today to discuss most likely to least likely teams that could be repeat divisional champions in the year 2023. And we could go division by division, evaluate these divisions, and discuss the likelihood and plot these teams on a chart. And so that means we have to open up a trusty Google Doc and go most likely to least likely. And so we're going to do it live. I did not pre-prepare my list. I thought it would be more fun here on the Friday Free-For-All to walk through the thought process that I would take if I was doing a deep dive research project for one of these shows, and that we could do it this way. So I am opening up a untitled Google document, and we are going to put 8 numbers down. I know how to count. You have to go 1 to 8. 1 being the most likely to repeat as a divisional champion in the year 2023. 8 being least likely to repeat as a divisional champion in 2023. So I think this would be a very fun conversation. And why don't we start with the division that was the launching point for Dan's story, the launching point for me wanting to do this as a topic? Let's discuss the likelihood that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to repeat as divisional champions. Now, again, I just gave you the number. Since 2004, it hasn't happened. There has not been a repeat champion. Now, In order to do this, I think the important thing to evaluate is the level of competition that the division can provide the Philadelphia Eagles. And so you look at Dallas, a team that won 12 games a year ago, the Giants, a surprise team that made the playoffs and won 9 games and won a playoff game, and the Commanders, who were 500. They were 8-1 by the time the season was over. So all 4 teams, 500 or better a year ago, 3 playoff teams in the division. I think we would agree that the Giants have not fallen off. In fact, they probably have gotten better with their draft. The Dallas Cowboys probably have not fallen off. They've filled some holes. They've still got Dak Prescott. They've still got all the infrastructure that led them to a 12-win season a year ago. And the Washington Commanders, they're going to give it a run with Sam Howell as their quarterback, and I think that's a relative unknown. But overall, I don't think this division is all that changed. So you look at it from the context of this Philadelphia Eagles team won 14 games a year ago. They kind of won 14 games because the schedule was incredibly favorable to them. Not taking anything away from the fact that they are the defending NFC champions, that they went to the Super Bowl, that they were very impressive in the playoffs. They beat some good teams in the playoffs. But the schedule was very favorable to them in the regular season. Don't know if that's going to be the case in 2023. I think it's likely. I still think they're very much head and shoulders above the Dallas Cowboys. I think they are better than the New York Giants. So I think it is likely that they repeat. I do not think we can put them in the 1 spot, though, because the competition of the division. Because the division did have all 4 teams above 500. The competition did have 2 other teams in addition to the Philadelphia Eagles that made the playoffs in 2022. So do we want to put the Philadelphia Eagles 2 or 3? That feels like a great starting point for us. And so I'm going to put the Philadelphia Eagles 3 from the level of competition. And we can adjust. We can adjust if we feel like there's a team that needs to go above them, but we need to start somewhere with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, we'll ping pong. We'll go back and forth. Let's look at the AFC East. The Buffalo Bills won this division a year ago with 13 wins. Only one other team in the division with a winning record, the Miami Dolphins. Only one other team in the division in the playoffs. The New England Patriots were 8-9. I think they take a step backwards. I think the schedule is really difficult. I think the teams that they're going to have to play in the division, they're going to have to play the Jets twice a year with Aaron Rodgers. That's going to make those games more difficult than they were in years past. They've swept that series each of the last, 6 or 7 years under Bill Belichick, and with the New York Jets kind of in a state of quarterback turmoil. The Jets are going to be better. They're going to be better than 7-10 if they get consistent quarterback play from Aaron Rodgers over the course of 17 games. And Miami, when Tua was healthy, was directly there, right in the mix, competing with the Buffalo Bills for that division. I think they've gotten better in terms of their backup quarterback with Mike White over Teddy Bridgewater and Skylar Thompson. So if they did have to go to a backup quarterback, I think Mike White is very capable enough of stepping in and being able to win games. So Buffalo's repeat chances, I think, are lower than Philadelphia's, because I think Miami was a playoff team a year ago. The Jets just got a very good quarterback that should be able to help them. They got a top 10 quarterback at the position. So I'm going to put the Bills directly below the Philadelphia Eagles for the moment. We're going to put them 4th. Taylor B, we are rating them 1 to 8. So 1, the team that's going to finish first on this list is the team that we feel is most likely to repeat as a divisional champion. The team that we put 8th is the team least likely to repeat as a divisional champion. So 1 to 8, because there are 8 divisions, 1 most likely, 8 being the least likely. We've gotten 2 down, and I don't love the spots that we put either of these teams. This is going to be a very difficult conversation for us to have here on a Friday, but I'm very excited about it. We'll go back to the NFC, and let's look at the NFC South. We'll go to the Souths here. So Tampa won this division a year ago. They're 8-9. Carolina, New Orleans, Atlanta, all 7-10. New Orleans got better because I think they upgraded their quarterback. Carolina got better. They upgraded their coaching staff, and I think they're going to get better quarterback play. Atlanta, I think they're a better team with what they've done in free agency. I think if we are looking at a team that is least likely to repeat out of all the teams we're discussing, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers losing Tom Brady, going with Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask, I think this is very, very easy for us to put at least as a starting point. And if we want to make an adjustment later, that's fine. But I think we got to take some wins when we can get them where they're easy. I think the Tampa Bay Bucks are the most likely to have their division taken from them. So they are the least likely to be a repeat divisional champion. So we will put them 8th on the list. We go to the AFC South. The Jags, 9-8, won this division. Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence, the Tennessee Titans, Indianapolis Colts, Houston Texans, all teams that finished with losing records. The Texans and Colts, 2 teams that picked inside the top 4 that will be starting rookie quarterbacks with brand new first-time head coaches. The Tennessee Titans, Ryan Tannehill, Will Levis, who knows what you're going to make of that. The level of competition here makes me really want to consider the Jacksonville Jaguars as the most likely to repeat of this list because, again, the competition is very, very scarce. But I'm going to put them number 2 because I think there's a team that is going to be, that has a better chance. And if we want to have a conversation debating 1 and 2, that's fine. But we're going to put Jacksonville 2 for the moment. That was the AFC South. We'll go to the team that I think is number 1. We'll go to the NFC West. The San Francisco 49ers were 13-4. The only other team in the division that was good and made the playoffs was Seattle Seahawks. I don't know what to make of the Los Angeles Rams. I don't think the Arizona Cardinals are going to be much of anything with Kyler Murray being out the door. Now, San Francisco did win 13 games a year ago. They had all that quarterback turmoil. Whether or not they start Sam Darnold or Brock Purdy or Trey Lance, I think their division. Seattle took a step back in the second half of last year. They got to refine themselves. And so I think if you're looking at a team, and I know they've got the quarterback issues, but the division is incredibly favorable to them. I think they're going to have at least 4 games a year in which they're going to be heavily favored against the Rams and the Cardinals. I think they're going to be favored in their home game against the Seattle Seahawks. I think they can very easily go up there and beat Seattle. Again, their quarterback is going to figure itself out, but I was very, very concerned about the way Seattle passed the football in the second half of last season. Concerned me greatly. They're going to have to do that to be able to win games in this division. So I'm going to put Seattle number 1 for the moment as most likely to repeat as a divisional champion. So we'll put the 49ers. So we've got 3 spots left, and then we'll read the whole list, and then we'll see how we feel and if we want to make any adjustments. So we just did the NFC West. Let's do the AFC West. The Kansas City Chiefs, 14-3, defending Super Bowl champs. I think we have to give that a little bit of a grade here. That's gonna influence us here a little bit. But the Los Angeles Chargers might be pretty good. They won 10 games a year ago. Another year, another step in the right direction for Justin Herbert. You've got the Raiders, who aren't going to be very good. I think they're a team that's going to be picking inside the top 10, right? That's just personal opinion. And we just learned the news that Jimmy Garoppolo had to have surgery after he signed his contract with the Raiders. He's already hurt, hasn't played a game for them. Then the Denver Broncos. The way you feel about this division is going to truly come down to the way you feel about Sean Payton's impact on getting Russell Wilson back to being above average, right? Because if that's the case, Denver's defense was really good a year ago. Denver's got the offensive weaponry to be able to do a whole lot. So it's really going to depend. I think for now, I think we need to make an adjustment. I'm already going to make an adjustment. We need to move the Bills down to 5 because I think Miami and the Jets are better in our minds how we feel about. I think we feel that the competition for the Bills in Miami and the Jets is greater than the competition we feel that Denver and the Chargers will be for the Chiefs. And so Al Bundy says you can only choose a number 1. Yes, 1 through 8. 1 being most likely, 8 being least likely. We have to rank these in order. We have to do some level of a ranking. So I'm going to slot Buffalo down to 5. And I'm going to put Kansas City at 4. I think we're going to need to make some adjustments. We're going to finish the list and then we're going to make some adjustments because I'm already seeing some things that I don't necessarily love about this list. All right, our last 2 divisions are the North. We'll go back to the NFC North. The Minnesota Vikings, 13-4. The Detroit Lions, 9-8, barely missed the playoffs. The Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers gone, Jordan Love in. The Chicago Bears, team did pick number 1 overall, won 3 games a year ago. The likelihood that the Minnesota Vikings repeat as divisional champions. I don't love it. I think the Lions can give them a ton of trouble. They certainly did give them a ton of trouble. Minnesota won a lot of close games. They won a lot of games where the luck was on their side. I don't think that's going to repeat itself. They can still be good, but I think this division can hurt them. So we're going to put Minnesota 7, which means just by default, we're putting the Cincinnati Bengals 6. So here's the list as in version 1.0 after going through it once. Most likely to repeat as divisional champions in 2023. Spot number 1 means they're most likely. Spot number 8 means they're least likely. And I already see one adjustment that I think I want to make. San Francisco 1, Jacksonville 2, Philly 3, Kansas City 4, Buffalo 5, Cincinnati 6, Minnesota 7, Tampa 8. I think the easiest thing that we can do here, if we flip Kansas City, we move them up to 2, right? And then I think we put Jacksonville 3 and Philly 4. I think we just move Kansas City up to 2 and we move everybody else down. I think that's probably the thing that makes the most sense. Because I think Jacksonville's got an easier division. I still think the Chargers are going to be better than anything. I think the Chargers are going to be better than anything the Jags see from a divisional opponent. And I understand everybody's concerned about having the Jags in the top 4 here, but the division isn't going to be very good. You've got CJ Stroud, rookie quarterback, first year for DeMeco Ryans. That team's trending in the right direction. I like what they're doing, but I don't necessarily think that it's like a guarantee that they're going to be competitive. Indy starting Anthony Richardson, right? I mean, we haven't forgotten how Anthony Richardson, that like coming out, we thought he was a raw prospect. We thought it was going to take some time. We can't just now put that to the side because we're like, I don't really know. And like Tennessee, like what are they? They don't have a good wide receiver core. I don't know who their starting quarterback's going to be by the midway point of the season. It might be Will Levis. Like I just don't know. And so for me, I understand everybody's concerns about maybe we're overhyping the Jags, but that's not what this conversation is about. The Jags might only win 8 or 9 games, but still win the division. I think there's a difference between overhyping the Jags and thinking they're going to win 12 or 13 games and them thinking they might still win 8 or 9 games. 8 or 9 games might be good enough to win that division. And I think that's the separator that we need to have here. I would agree that I'm not ready to go full bore, Dougie P, Trevor Lawrence, AFC favorites, get them to high double-digit wins. They're in the mix for the 1 seed. I don't want to go that far. But focusing in this conversation, they can win 8 or 9 games, and that's probably enough to win this division. And so because of that, I think they're kind of landlocked to the top 3. And so that's the direction that I want to go in. I do think we need to look at the idea of how much clout do we want to give the fact that Kansas City has run the division for so long. Because if you do that, then don't we have to then necessarily do the same thing for the Philadelphia Eagles? No teams repeat in that division since 2004. If we're going to use historical context, then I think the historical context needs to be evenly applied across the board. And so for me, putting Philly and Kansas City 3 and 4 feels relatively good. I think I'm talking myself right back into the order that we currently have. San Francisco, Jacksonville, Philly, Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Minnesota, Tampa Bay. And I might flip Cincinnati and Minnesota because Cincinnati probably has more teams that I think can be above 500 in that division. With Baltimore, with Pittsburgh, who you know is going to be 500. It's what Mike Tomlin does. And then, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cleveland, all those teams are going to be pretty good. Heldy wants Kansas City to be number 1. I can't do it. I can't put them above the Jags. From a divisional strength perspective, I can't do it. On principle, I can't do it. Sam, Chris, have you done a list for the inverse of this? The likelihoods of teams finishing in the bottom of the division for the second year in a row. I have not done the inverse of this. Are we doing the inverse of this? We need to finalize this list first. Can we finalize this version of the list before we talk about doing another version of this list? I think there are some things I'm not willing to do. I'm not willing to move the Jags outside of the top 3. I hear everybody's concerns about San Francisco. But Al Bundy just put it in the chat. Every division has at least one major competitor. Kansas City has the Chargers. The Buffalo has the Jets and Miami. The 49ers have Seattle. Minnesota has the Lions. Cincinnati has Baltimore. The NFC South, who knows who's going to win that division? The Jags have no competition, and I think I agree with that. But now Al wants to put me with the Jags at number 1. All right, Al, you made a compelling case. I'm going to do it. I've now messed up my numbers here. So give me a second. My numbers are all messed up. I'm putting Jacksonville number 1. So Jacksonville's number 1. The San Francisco 49ers are number 2. The Philadelphia Eagles and Kansas City Chiefs are number 3. And the Kansas City Chiefs are number 4. I'm going to make another adjustment. I'm going to flip-flop the Eagles and the Chiefs. Because I think the Eagles have more realistic candidates that can... The Eagles have more realistic candidates that were in the playoffs a year ago, right? They had 2 that were in the playoffs a year ago, and that are going to be similar levels of competition. The Chiefs, it's all what you make of Denver, and as we sit here right now, I can't put anything into Denver until I see them on the field. And so, we're going to flip-flop Kansas City and Philadelphia, and I'm flip-flopping Minnesota and Cincinnati, and then I'm calling it a list. and then I think we might be calling it a show. That's what we're doing. So here's the new list, locked in, ready to go. The Chris Schubert official most likely to repeat as divisional winners in 2023. 1 being most likely, 8 being least likely. See, Sam just put the 49ers 7, and now that's making me think. You're putting a lot of bet on Seattle. Nah, I'm committed. The official Chris Schubert most likely to repeat as 2023 division winners list here, ready to go. Number 1, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Number 2, the San Francisco 49ers. Number 3, the Kansas City Chiefs. Number 4, the Philadelphia Eagles. Number 5, the Buffalo Bills. Number 6, the Minnesota Vikings. Number 7, the Cincinnati Bengals. And number 8, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There it is, 1 through 8, the Chris Schubert official most likely to repeat as division winners in the 2023-24 season. A lot of debate about this. I wasn't sure how this was going to go. Very, very excited to see that it went as well as it did. We appreciate you making this show a part of your day. Whether it was 1, 2, 3, 4, or all 5 episodes, we greatly appreciate you being here from whenever you're able to tune in to TDN Daily. We would greatly appreciate a rate, a review, a subscribe to the podcast. If you've done all 3 of those things, if you've done those 3 pieces of homework, I've got a new one for you. How about you share the show with a friend, a family, a coworker, somebody you think would enjoy the football conversation, that would enjoy the banter, being a part of this great TDN Daily community that we are creating. Here's another piece of homework for you. Join us on the YouTube side of things. You saw we passed the producer's mic today on the Friday edition of the show over to the listeners of the program, the live YouTube chat, and they got to be a part of the show. You can do the same Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is when we do this show. If you want to just catch the video version on demand, you can do so as well underneath the live tab on the Draft Network YouTube channel. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Hope everybody enjoys whatever they're doing here with a couple days off. We've got a show for you again on Monday, so we'll see you then. We're into the post show. Take a drink of my soda. What a fun conversation. I think I like my list. I like my list a lot more now that we made those 2 changes there at the end. Definitely like the list a lot more. I have people sending me cryptic tweets on the internet. My buddy just DM'd me a tweet that is very cryptic, so I need to now see what's happening. No, No. We found it. Stanley back. The Stanley is back. I found it. It was exactly where I thought it was going to be. Exactly where I thought it was going to be. We're into the post show, folks. What would you like to discuss here in the post show? What would we like to discuss in the post show? Here on a Friday, before I get out of here to edit the show. We've got time. I don't have a TDN staff meeting, so if we sidebar. Next potential QB surprise. Do we see a quarterback situation where they elevate their play beyond expectations like Geno Smith and Jalen Hurts? It's a great question, Tuttle. Next potential QB surprise. Do we see a QB situation where they elevate their play beyond expectations? Tuttle, what are your expectations for Sam Darnold in San Francisco? Because I think that system suits him very well, and I think he's going to look very good in it if he's the starter. It might be for a short period of time, but I think Sam Darnold's probably the easiest answer. Trying to look at other names that could make some sense. I mean, I would love it if Derek just took a massive leap forward and just really just shut everybody up and was like, oh yeah? Yeah? You don't think I'm very good? You think I'm a middle of the road quarterback? Watch these numbers I put up in New Orleans. But I mean, I don't know if I would like pick it. Like Darnold makes more sense. Who is this year's TCU in college? What are we defining as what are we defining as TCU? Mac Jones rebound year? No, I'm not buying into that. Sam, what are we defining TCU? What are we defining as this year's TCU? Like what are the characteristics of being a TCU? What requirements do I need to check off for them to be a team? I have not even begun to do a deep dive into like college for this season. Like not from a draft perspective, yes. Like I have a pretty good idea. But like from a college perspective, because I will definitely have, it'll probably make prospects and props before it'll make this show, but I will definitely be giving out some bets for college for next season. Overperforming college program that comes out of nowhere to compete for a CFB spot. So like a top 10 finish in the playoff ranking for a program that came from nowhere. All right, hold on. Let's take a peek here. I kind of want to pick a Pac-12 school. I kind of want to pick like Washington State. Just go all in on the Cam Ward bandwagon. I don't know. I don't have an immediate answer that jumps to mind for me. We'll have to do a deep dive into some of these teams. I'm so excited. We're getting so close. We're getting so close to the start of college football season. It's my favorite time of year. But I don't have. I think this doesn't really fit. But Florida State has loaded up on talent. 100%. Yeah, they're. I mean, Jordan Travis is obviously going to be really fun to see. They've got Johnny Wilson there as well. They've got that kid Jared Verse, right? Jared Verse is back. He didn't declare, so he's back. Like, just they've got three guys right there that, from a draft perspective, you're going to be keeping an eye on a regular basis. And Florida State's always that like first game on like ESPN. Remember when like they had ESPN like ESPN College? They're going to be on like the offshoot channel in the middle of the afternoon slate. Like, just Florida State games are going to be wild. Total transfer portal really throws a wrench in keeping up with teams' rosters. It's impossible. Unless you are a dedicated college football only person, right? You work in the space, just doing a college football show, or you just focus on like recruiting, or like you just focus on a team. Like you have to be in that ecosystem to be able to keep up with it. Like for me, it's like, okay, I got to airdrop in like now and give me the lay of the land. And the person that I love reading is probably this is going to be a divisive comment. But the person that I love reading to be able to get me ready to go for the upcoming season. I love reading Bill Connolly's conference previews. When he does those conference previews, I'm a huge SP Plus person. I love the metric. I believe in it very heavily. I love reading his previews ahead of the season where he goes through and discusses these teams, the returning production, the production that they brought in. Like, I love it. So that's my go-to to get myself ready for college football. All right. I think we're going to call it here. Another great week of shows in the books. Appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate the interactivity on today's show with this most likely to least likely to repeat as division winners. Maybe we'll do Sam your idea next week, next Friday. We'll do the inverse. Most likely to least likely to stay in their spot at the bottom of the division. But I hope everybody has a great weekend. Whatever you guys have got planned, hope it's a good time. I'm finishing up a move this weekend, so I will be back and forth between two different houses, cleaning and moving stuff. So that's on the docket for me this weekend. But we've got some fun shows planned for next week. Hope everybody has a great weekend, and I will talk to everybody on Monday.